Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We are back on Tuesdays. Everybody, come on. Anybody? Give me some clappies. Oh, I love it. I missed it.
I love you, Jordan.
Oh, I love you guys, too. Sorry.
It figures that's the only name you would use. Afterthoughts don't work.
Jerk.
Jeez.
This is what he does at home when he's not anybody around him. He's like, hey, look, I killed that guy. Good job, Jordan. You know?
Yeah, I play Modern Warfare, too, and I'm like, Jordan, you're so awesome.
And then he stops talking and there's crickets and he cries.
Shut up.
Sorry.
We're back on Tuesdays. I love it. It feels like we're home again, I guess. At 6:10 p.m., it is 40 degrees in downtown Wheeling. It's a little drizzly out, kind of drab, or would it be drab?
Drab, drizzly, dank, damp, dicky.
Were either of you outside yesterday during the hailstorm?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I
got hit right in the head.
Porch.
I got popped right in the head. I was in Bridgeport. Bridgeport got hit pretty hard.
We were over in the island, and we were. I just got my brand new GPS.
Yeah.
That I got one online. We were going out and trying it out, and we were just going somewhere over in Martins Ferry or something, just put an address in. Like, hey, let's stop and get a KFC. So we pull into KFC, and all of a sudden the first hailstone hits, and Lisa pulls out of line and runs over, where the interstate. To get away from the hell.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there and everybody crams in there. I mean, honking and stuff I gotta, trying to get in. And finally it stops. 5 minutes and we go and pull out. And as soon as we pull out, it starts again. So she circles, we get back under. Wait. She pulls over and we go back in the line over at KFC. It's gotta be over.
Mm-mm.
We're in line. We're talking to the woman and it starts again. And Lisa's like, be right back, and runs back over, and I'm like, is it ever going to stop hell? I mean, we were picking up a hell ball, off the ground, silver dollar size and bigger. I mean, it was huge. It was crazy.
The first storm that came through, those were really big, and they were soft.
Yeah.
So when they hit the ground, they kind of mushed like a snowball would.
Yeah.
But then after that, they got smaller and harder. And
somebody told me he saw somebody at work hell ball hit or hell hits. I don't know if it's a ball, whatever you want to call it. And the guy looked up.
Oh, I would have done that.
got hit, I guess, in the face.
Well, somebody that owns a car dealership really took a hit with it. I stood out on the front porch with the dog and thinking, well, what am I going to do if all of a sudden I see my windshield crack? But
yeah.
I just
tell you what, I was with one of my
it.
buddies, and it was hitting him right in the windshield, man. It sounded like somebody was just pelting it with rocks. I was like, man, that should shatter.
You missed the bird episode at my house.
Oh, yeah?
We had 2 weekends ago, I heard something come down my chimney in the fireplace upstairs in my room. And I thought, geez, here we go. But then I didn't hear anything. So then later on in the day, we were downstairs, and I hear in the fireplace downstairs in the living room. And I thought, oh, no, it's either a bat, a squirrel, or something, a little rodent, or a bird. So, of course, all the cats then, a semicircle, that's the only time they ever get along. They're all sitting there staring at the fireplace. And so Sammy came over because it's like, what am I going to do? Because I couldn't get my fireplaces are all blocked off. Yeah. So I can't get the grill out. And I certainly didn't want to have to break it, but I didn't want this thing dying in there.
Yeah.
So we hooked up this contraption anyway. And eventually the bird did fly out into the bag, but it was the 2 minutes that Linda had to run upstairs. Of course, the cats got it, thought it was a play toy. The thing's flying around the house. Finally, Tiggy caught it. long story short, Tiggy killed it.
all that because you didn't want it to die in there.
We were gonna let it be free, little bird. It was a robin too. But I was wondering then, I said something to Brian about, well, the grate or the screen off the chimney must have gotten off then if a bird got in.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Yesterday during that bad storm, I'm sitting in the living room, drip, 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 drip. No. And so, yeah, it's coming. Something got knocked off, blown off the top, and yeah, it's coming right down. And I was waiting for the pool to spread underneath the grate.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was our bird episode, our little bird episode. It was really ingenious the way Sammy and Zach figured out how to put this bag up there, but it got out and it was so scared it just flew into the bag and pulled the bag right off the wall, and Tiggy had fun. Still cleaning up bird feathers. Those little things are all over the place. And they just poof away, and oh, jeez. So now every day the cats go and look at the fireplace, like
they
licking
just sit
their
there and
chops.
wait. Like,
another one will come down. I know it.
Anytime now.
Just wait for it. But that was my bird episode.
That's kind of funny. You should have recorded it.
And that was in the midst of waiting for us to get floated down the river. Yeah, I think it was that weekend.
Yeah.
What's the chances of flooding now, though? I mean, it's got to be. No?
Mm-mm.
Nothing?
I mean, it's high, but it's not. It was that big snow melt up north of Pittsburgh that was the fear. And we weathered that. And, of course, the whole time my sister's going, it's not going to flood. It's not going to flood. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you know what? You don't care about saving your stuff. Leave it. I'm taking mine up.
There you go.
I shamed them into cleaning all this stuff. And then we didn't even know. It was lifted. The flood warning was lifted like mid-afternoon on Saturday.
You still got them cleaning?
No.
2
but they
days
did
later.
go down. They did go down Saturday morning, and they were still moving stuff. But we got to the theater on Saturday night, and somebody that I knew was sitting in front of me, and she said, "Oh yeah, that flood warning was lifted hours ago." Oh, if looks could kill, you would have been at my funeral. I'm not kidding you, because she was so mad. I thought, well, at least the basement got cleaned out. Actually, we found some old photos of my mom. So these things are like from the 1940s.
Wow.
That I didn't even know were there and would not have discovered if we hadn't had to go in and clean all this stuff out.
Something good came of it.
I know. But it was just amusing, But it was scary there for 2 days.
Yeah.
I had visions of muck and mud, and then everybody's giving me all these warnings.
Well, that's because you were here. You're here when it floods. She's not from around here, is she?
No, and well, she did see the aftermath of the 2004, and that's all I saw. I mean, I didn't have to worry about flooding where I lived in Ohio, so that was the extent of it. Tom kept calling and saying, "Keep your toilet seats down because the rats will swim up the sewers and they'll bite you when you sit down and stuff." It's like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to go to the bathroom now.
I don't think I've ever heard any reports of that.
Don't tell all of
He claims that somebody got bit in a really inappropriate area for a man and died because of poison. Well, yeah. Can you imagine going into emergency room?
What's wrong? I don't want to say.
I can only explain it with a doll.
All right, how am I doing this? Getting them both?
Yeah, they're both coming.
Are they calling or am I?
You're calling.
Okay. Anytime now, gang.
Whenever
you're
good. Oh. Speaking of that, today we do have we've only done this once before.
Actually, with these same guys.
With the same people, and I told them that too. We have Frank Feschino and Alfred Lehmberg. They are experts on the Mothman, ufology, all that kind of good stuff, and they were just on a TV show.
Flatwood Monster, not Mothman.
Shoot.
Yeah, poor
you have No, he's got Mothman on the brain.
Don't tell Frank I said that.
He's got Mothman. He called me last night talking about the Mothman something.
Well,
somebody
we had an
emailed.
email. It was neat. This guy, he's like, you'd be doing me a big favor if you just email me back, agreeing that the Mothman is not evil, for my son. My son just needs you to agree with me. I was like, okay. The Mothman is not evil.
Now, that is quite the responsibility because you have now insinuated yourself into the psyche of a young person.
Well, Jordan's telling me, he's like, maybe I should email and say, your dad doesn't know. You should get away quick. And I'm like, don't do that.
Now! Run now!
You would do that to a
You
child.
would too, and he would laugh about
Terrible. It's terrible.
He's a horrible person.
Well, I didn't see this show that you were telling me something about lizard peoples
you
or
weren't
something.
able to find it? I know it was on
Last week, wasn't it?
It was on. Well, it's on not last week, but the week before. It was the original airing, but they've replayed it a couple times now.
Well, I looked and all I
I've
came
got it
up with
recorded
was
and
Destination Truth. We were talking about that before, and I love that show. I just think that is the greatest. Because I watched, and the worst to me anymore is Paranormal State.
Yeah,
Just
I'm
cannot.
with you.
I
I
did
remember
watch
when you
some.
used to love Paranormal Stuff.
No,
You used to enjoy watching
Well,
it. Yeah,
it was not on my must-see TV.
sure.
Destination Truth is. I think I've only seen one episode, but I thought it was really cool. They got that full-body apparition in Masada, and then they went to find Leprechaun.
Yeah, they went to Dublin, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, to County Clare, where they have a whole forest blocked off for little peoples. But, I think they're really cool. And then there was one, Ghost Hunters I watched. They went to Harriet Beecher Stowe's house and that bar. I think that was...
You need to find the one where they went and...
the jail. I want to... On Ghost Hunters International, they go to a jail in Ireland, I think. And I started to watch that and then had to...
You just want to watch that for Barry.
Yeah, but... Actually, what I need it for is the Irish accents, because I have to do an Irish accent in this next play. So I'm trying to tape everything Irish that I can.
Well, it was reminding me, though...
Now, I don't want to sound like the Lucky Charms leprechaun. That's what I don't want to do. But anyway, Destination Truth, he's going to go looking for mermaids and all kinds of stuff. I think that's really neat.
They went on this one show, and you're going to love this. It's Destination Truth, and they went to... I don't know how to say it, but it's Akagahara. It's a forest in Japan.
Yeah,
it's which means sea of trees, but it's known as the suicide forest. And it's this forest that people go into and kill themselves in. And I was looking it up here. Been over 500 suicides since the 50s. People actually going in and dying in this forest. There's when they were there, they had this sign saying, think about it. Don't before you go in.
Yeah, there's
think
like
about
signs planted through the trees that are like, hey, call a therapist.
And they're looking through, and they find this one place where these pictures were tore up at this tree, and they found an abandoned camp at one point. And,
some
and
empty
they found
tents
some weird. And they've got some weird video in there. And
that's the one I was going to tell you right before the show started. Like right when the thing is, I was just like, I'll wait till the next break to tell you. But that's the one I was going to tell you.
I was going to say, you've got to see that one. That one was, and just even if they hadn't found anything, it was just so sad and
eerie,
and creepy, just about this forest, and it was just. I would never have walked in there at night.
Now I was paying attention kind of to a lot of the equipment that they've been using in these shows. Destination Truth, they've really got some hot stuff. Those IR cameras and all that kind of. But what is the K2? Because that's the one with the 5 little lights, right?
Yeah.
And because in Harriet Beecher Stowe's house,
Ghost Hunters used it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the newly popular items. It's a like the EMF meters, the electromagnetic. It's like a magnetic field detector, and the way that it's been used, or people that say they can use it, is when there's any kind of energy near it, all the lights will go up. So they say if you're here, make the lights go up, and the lights go up, and I know I didn't watch the episode you were talking about, like all of it, but I know there was at one point, they did it and they were asking questions. If you're a boy, take it to 3. If you're a girl, take it to like 8. 20. It's kind of conversing, I guess.
All right. Now, the EMF meters that you have is the little needle.
We have 2. We have a digital and we have a needle.
Oh, because the one they used was the digital.
Yeah, we have the same digital.
Because that was cool too. They're asking questions and it's going 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they ask if it was her son, that had died drowned in the river, and it to 0. So whoever it was ticked.
I know with the K2 meter, if you're looking for one, I just looked it up. $59.90 online. You can buy one of those.
Y'all want to go in together on one?
Which isn't too expensive. I mean, the one we have is like hundreds of dollars, isn't it?
Yeah, we get the one real
expensive. And then the other one was $30, $40. I mean, it was kind of it was one of the cheaper ones. And we kind of went.
It's the one with the needle. It's like woo, woo.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a noise.
Yeah.
Does it? Yeah. That's cool.
Not so much for Jordan, but yeah.
It's the noise that scares me. You just standing there, all of a sudden it goes, woo! And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die right now. Not that I have ever had that reaction because I'm professional.
We've talked about that many times.
I think
don't listen to any rerun shows.
After watching that episode on Masada.
Yeah.
Boy.
I want a thermal.
I do too.
You ain't kidding.
And I'll segue from here into, we are going to the prison soon. We will be putting up the price.
Yeah, we were going to have that done this week. There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, this has been a really rough week. But we will have it up in the next couple of days once I finally get Jordan nailed down to give me information so I can actually put it up. Because we're going to do the same kind of setup we had last time. You'll be able to go to our website. It'll say
some info on the pin.
Want to ghost hunt with whispers? Click on the link. It's going to be at the top of the page. It'll say some info on the pin, what time it starts. Now it is. I did look before I came. 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. So it's 12 to 6. They said to get there at 11:45.
Here's my question.
Sure.
And I was going to ask you this before, and I might as well ask it now because I'm sure other people are thinking it now. I'm putting you on the spot
during the show live.
Okay. You're good for it. Now it's June 30th.
June 30th, right? Which is a Wednesday.
Now, here's the kicker. Are we supposed to be there at 11:45 p.m. on June 30th or the 29th? Is it 12 a.m. to 6 a.m.
So
on the 30th?
Is it Tuesday? I'll call.
Is it a Tuesday midnight or a Wednesday midnight?
Just find out if it's Wednesday night or Tuesday night.
I should have brought the letter with me, and I will make sure. I know when we did it before,
because I was going to send some info out, and then I was like, well, wait a minute. Well, just for clarification.
I know when we did it before, they said it was a Saturday ghost hunt, and we showed up on Saturday.
Well, that's because we were supposed to be there at 11 o'clock, and they didn't open the doors till 12.
Well, but they said that it was 12 o'clock, and if they maintain that means that it probably means that we'll be showing up on Wednesday at, and then it'd be Thursday morning that we're doing it.
Okay.
If I had to guess. Now,
that's what I would assume, is that they would say it was Wednesday, but never assume, because it makes an ass out of you and
we don't want to show up on Wednesday night and be like, well, you were supposed to be your last night.
Yeah.
Too late, open up the doors.
So let me make sure before I say for certain, but if I had to put money on it, I would say it's 11:45 Wednesday night. We get there.
Yeah, and this is just stuff we wanted to make sure was ironed out before we put the information up on the site.
Yeah, no, because I have been getting emails from her because he's really anxious to go, and I'm thinking, I know and if you're listening, Herb, I'm emailing you back. It's just I wanted to make sure I had everything right before I said anything. So, but everything's gonna be worked out the next couple of days. So,
but look for it. It's gonna be $65. So save up, and it's either the Tuesday midnight, it's one of them 2 days, it's now, the hunt is on the 30th.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Bring it on. I can make up stuff with the best of them.
I know you can. We'll be doing the things with Dwayne Claude and Herb, making, of course, if he can make it earlier. But where were they going to be at and what times?
It would be at Grandview Park because Mike is going to be helping us, with all that. Sorry about that.
Almost made it to the mute button.
Yeah, I almost caught it. It'll be at Grandview Park. We haven't got that completely ironed out yet, but Mike said he was going to be working with us, so it will be just a little bit prior to us going. That way it's like one big event instead of two separate ones.
Okay, so, I mean, let's say
Grandview Park is
we
right
have to
down
be
the
there
road
at
from the
11.
pen.
Yeah, if we have to be there at 11:45, maybe 8 o'clock for one of them, 9 o'clock for the other one, maybe.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll have a great time.
And are we going to have two separate prices, or is that all included in the 65?
All included.
There we go. So,
All
Lola, any
included.
questions yourself, or that all sounds good?
Yeah.
It's a steal. It's a steal.
Who else besides the demonology? Did you just say two people?
Herb
Herb
Street.
Mi-
Remember, he's
Herb
got
Street.
the Herb Street method. You said you wanted to go around with him.
That's right.
Yeah,
He
he's
is.
anxious. I think he's going to...
And I don't
I
understand
don't wanna
why
speak for
Barry
him.
Fitzgerald won't come here. After all, he's Irish. That is international to come to the United States.
He is afraid of falling in love with you, Lola.
Jordan,
He is.
keep talking, dear.
He's told us on several
Oh,
occasions.
he
No.
has
He won't take my
Is
calls
that
anymore
who
because
left
he
those
doesn't want
flowers in my car last
That was
Wednesday?
Riley Martin. My dear Lola.
Oh.
to... I'm still mad at you.
Seriously,
You need to
somebody
contact
left
the
flowers
sign.
in my car Wednesday.
Really?
And they
Really?
didn't sign the card.
Beauregard, you out there?
That
That
would
wasn't him. He's too cheap.
That would have creeped me out.
Well, it's like
Sorry.
I asked Fabio. I said, "Did you put something in my car Wednesday?" Because I didn't want to tip him off as
Yeah.
to what it is. He's going, "Wow, why would I do that? You got 150 empty cigarette packs in your car now." I said, "Well, somebody put flowers in there." He goes, "And you think it was me?" And I said, "No, I'm just asking." Because it kind of looked like a little like his handwriting. It just said, "Hope you're feeling better" on the card, but they didn't sign it.
Yeah, he would
So
have
I
took
haven't-
credit if you would have said, "Did you put flowers in my car?" I sure
yes,
did.
I did.
Yeah, he would have brought him in here.
Yeah.
Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I was going to say, most people would have brought him in.
Would
I would have,
know.
if I brought you flowers, I'd bring them in.
He says, "You don't lock your car." I said, "Maybe somebody will steal 150 empty cigarette packs in there." Why would I lock it?
It takes
They
20
may
minutes to
clean
get it
out.
started, you know. It's
Don't. Now, the auxiliary fan keeps running after you turn the car off. So you have to get back in, move the car a couple feet, and then it'll finally shut off. The interior lights, when they're in the off position, are on. So then you have to turn them on to get them to go off. And I have another 2 low tires. I know it's the
so if you
Senders.
want to steal it,
Good luck.
start early.
Yeah, that's it. I have to leave for work. It takes me 2 minutes to get here, and I have to leave for work a half hour early because I can't keep it running.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, then we'll have our guests on for the rest of the show. The music today is from a band in Lancaster, PA called the Sketties.
Yay. This almost sounds like from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I like it.
Time more. Okay. All right, I'll go with this. Who do they sound? Who are they reminiscent of? Come on, think, Jordan. There's some group out there that they are very reminiscent of.
See, when I heard them, I thought the
In the
Stones.
80s.
I thought the Stones at first.
No,
Just because it's got like the older rock feel.
no, I was thinking like, who were those guys that wore the little red hat?
Devo,
Yeah. Yeah, that's who it is. They kind of remind me of Devo.
like a rock Devo.
A cool Devo.
Yeah, this is all right. All right, well, we do have to go to break.
Shh. Listen. I hear dead people. Shut up, you idiot. That's just Nick, Jordan, and Lola with Whispers Radio. Brought to you by the Market House in Elm Grove. Tune into Whispers Radio. every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. And now back to Whispers, brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours.
This is the song you were listening to when you said they sound like the Stones.
I still say Devo. I like you guys. I've liked everybody that you've had so far, except that Friendly or Findy or
West Finley, they
yeah,
sucked. It was
they
horrible.
were. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I know you.
I didn't
know
like any of
people
the
there.
band members, especially the bongo player. He's a jerk.
We love you, Jordan. We love you.
I hate you guys.
This is when you.
Welcome back to Whispers, everybody, on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog.
Frank and Ella
I'm
probably
Jordan
going,
Klein.
oh,
He's Nick Queen. She is the lovely Lola Miller. The music you're listening to is from a band in Lancaster, PA called the Sketties. They're featured bumper music today. Good stuff. Nikki, you want to introduce our guest?
I can do that for you, I guess. if you promise not to bring what. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Well, Frank Feschino and Alfred Lehmberg coming on the show. Frank Feschino's the author of "Shoot 'Em Down: Flying Saucer Air Wars" of 1952, and expert on the Flatwood Monster case in Braxton County, West Virginia. And Alfred Lehmberg's a retired military aviator and one of the leading observers of the UFO field writing today. Alfred and Frank, are you with us?
Yeah, we're here. I'll be here.
All right, there we go.
Hey, guys.
For a second, I was worried Alfred was dropped away or something. He heard us arguing before the break.
Not me. I try to drop in, not drop out.
Aha, there we go. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good, man.
Now,
I get better and better.
You guys had some interesting stuff happen in the last couple of weeks. You want to tell us about it?
Well, we had some interesting things happen for about the 8 months, the past 8 months.
Well, that's a lot more than a couple of weeks, so.
Yeah, I was contacted last year by Monster Quest and asked to do a show on the Flatwoods Monster. And basically I got the best people that I thought could work with me. And I assembled this team of people, and we went to Flatwoods in Franktown, West Virginia, for about a week. And the show was put together, and we had no idea what the story was going to be about and broadcast. And how long were we up there for, Alfred? Approximately 60 hours on camera.
Wow.
Oh, easily. Something like that, easily.
Wow.
My sit-down interview, and Alfred was there for it, was over 6 hours long in the chair. And when the show came out, it was not at all what we thought it was going to be about.
No. It wasn't about the Flatwoods Monster?
You want to take over for a second, Al? Well, you know me. I just say no. It wasn't about the Flatwoods Monster at all.
Now, Alfred, now were you in the show? Because I know he had. I've been talking to Frank several times about it. He said you were going to be on there, and I looked, and I don't think they ever mentioned your name or anything.
No. I'm an accidental character. If I'd been beamed down to the surface from Star Trek, I'd have been the first one murdered. Okay.
So you were the one wearing the red shirt. All right. I got it now.
Yeah, but seriously, what went on down there? Did any of you happen to read that piece that I wrote about my send-up on it? That they had an opportunity to do a brilliant job on a startling monster, and they failed to even remotely accomplish that. It just really blew me away. They had time, opportunity, they had everything they needed and more to do a quality program, and just blew it all away for my money.
Yeah, your article is called Flatwoods Sandbagged by Monster Quest. You can, for those of you out there want to Google it, look it up.
It's actually I've linked to it on our website.
Okay, just go to whispersradio.com and you can see the article yourself. I like at the beginning you're like, for those of you who don't or have seen it, I'm the bearded fella.
Oh, okay, I remember you now.
Well, I'm the only guy with a beard in the Flatwoods segment. In the
Star Child segment that was inexplicably jumbled up to this thing like
Well, I don't
apples and
understand.
oranges.
And that was one of my first questions. That's what I've been wanting to ask because I was going to call Frank and even ask him. I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait. What the heck was that? I don't understand why they even put it on there. It wasn't even really related, from what I understand. It's like, meanwhile,
and even
halfway across the country.
Yeah, and even trying to make it look like it's father and son, for God's sakes.
I guess, yeah, I can see where they. It was. I don't know. The longer it went on, it was more like, I don't know what they're trying to do here, but God bless them. They try to do something. So.
Well, I mean, I think that's Frank's impression. Correct me if I'm wrong, Frank. That you're kind of on board with them doing what they usually do. They take something. I mean, they came to you. They had the story. They understood what was going on. And when it came to it, all they had to do was do their job and tell the story that drew them in the first place. And they didn't. So, what's up with that?
Yeah, we had a heck of a lineup of the crew. We had Al Lehmberg there, was on site for the whole shoot. We had Stanton T. Friedman, nuclear physicist and UFO expert, as I call him. And we had an actual eyewitness, Freddie May, who actually saw the craft in flight and witnessed the Flatwoods Monster. We had John Barker, who was valiant in his effort. He just got out of having major heart surgery, and he's the last person that I know of through my 20 years of research who actually went up to the farm shortly after the incident and covered it.
Yeah, first-person responder.
Yeah, he was right there, and he was on camera. What did he say? About 4 or 5 words, Al? They did like a few seconds split shot of his face.
Yeah, they said they let him say there's something going on up here,
yeah,
or words to that effect.
Yeah, and they did quite a long interview with him. So Alfred and I saw what was taped up there, and the crew, the video crew who shot this were outstanding. We worked very well with them. They did their job. They went up there. They acquired the footage. We talked with them for a week. We explained what was going on. We went over our notes, and they accomplished what we set out to do. We told them the story in explicit detail. And like I said earlier, guys, I was on camera my final sit-down interview after being in the field for 50-plus hours. I lost track. But anyway, 6+ hours in the hot seat. And Alfred was sitting 10 feet away from me off camera. And so he saw everything that was done. So it was very disappointing what came out at the end.
Well, what they tried to turn it into, that there was some kind of threatening entity up there that was still hazarding and had hazarded for the last 60 years the people of the area. And that is just simply not true. That was not even intimated by anybody on our side of the fence.
So they just made up the information.
Well, I mean, I hesitate to, blatantly accuse such, but, for my part, sitting over here knowing what I know and what was provided them, I'd be hard-pressed to argue with you about it.
There has been a few sightings up there. We have the Flatwoods Monster sighting that occurred on September 12th. And as you guys well know, we've done a couple shows on this, the Bashful Billy incident that happened up in your area in Wheeling.
Up in Wheeling.
Okay, then the following night we had the Snatowski incident, which was the Flatwoods Monster out of its suit. We saw the upper portion of it. And the hunter that I interviewed while I was on book tour, who told me about the beings that he saw in Frametown. So we do have a few incidents there, but not still going on. Creatures that look like this every day running around for the past 60 years. So they're not attacking our people and the kids up there up in West Virginia.
Well, and that was what I was going to ask about. That was the car incident, correct?
The Snatowski incident, right.
Yeah, okay.
What I was referencing to in Stanton Friedman during the interview when I was saying there was nearly 60 years of sightings up there, we're talking about from 52 up to present time was the UFO sightings.
And they took that as the Lizard Man.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't 60 years of the lizard man running amok and attacking kids up there for the past 58 years. It's UFO sightings. And Alfred and
That's
myself,
what you were talking about. You were talking about UFOs. Every time they made it sound like you were talking about monsters still happening up there, the testimony you were giving was about UFOs.
And I think that's the problem, because Monster Quest to me is, because I've watched it, it's interesting to watch sometimes, but it's more of like a cryptozoology kind of show where they're talking about Bigfoot and they're talking about, and then when it's all of a sudden, oh well, let's talk about this is a UFO incident, and they had to what they tried to do, it seemed to me, was they were trying to make it as much as possible like, oh, it's not really the UFO, it's
a cryptid,
some kind of monster that's running amok that has like a hoverboard kind of thing going, and it's
begs the question where the monster really came from, doesn't it?
Exactly, and it's just like I think they missed the point of what
happened.
What happened is like maybe they should have went back to the interviews, or
maybe they should have researched it before they wanted to do a show on it.
Well, they'd done the research. They had Frank's book. They'd been talking to him for months about it. They knew the story frontwards and backwards. They just chose not to use it.
Right. The book was sent to them.
Well, and it seems to be it's more the editor, I guess, than anything else. It's,
Exactly. Like I said, the film crew we worked with, they did an outstanding job. It's once it got out of their hands, and we had no idea what was going on from that point forward. And Alfred, myself, and the people that were involved in this shoot up in West Virginia, we had no idea what was going on. So when it was aired on March 10th, a couple of weeks ago, that was the first time we saw it, as well as the public.
So now you're sitting there watching it. What were you thinking throughout the whole thing? I mean, was there a point where you're like,
that son of a no?
Is there a point where you're thinking,
Well, it was very disappointing because basically the same thing happened back on September 19th, 1952. Kathleen May had went on We the People. It was the television talk show of the day with Ailey Stewart Jr., the reporter, and Gene Lemon, who was another eyewitness. And they were sandbagged when that drawing came out of the monster wearing the skirt that was floating with the scary arms and claws with the hood on its head. So this here, and I'm sure Alfred would agree, we gave them everything, all of my data. I don't even know how many photographs and pictures and books that I had sent Monster Quest. And I said, this is going to be the first television show to talk about the Flatwoods Monster years since it was aired on We the People in September 1952. So that was kind of exciting because the story was botched up back then, and then when it came out here again, it was botched up all over again. So here I have nearly 20 years of data and information, and I have much more information in my new books that I've written. I talked about this with Nick in the past, and we need somebody to help get this true story out of what actually happened, not a part of a story. Like this,
for a whole bunch of different kind of reasons too, Frank, that you could go into.
Say that again now.
For a whole bunch of different reasons, like this story has to be told for reasons that people aren't really thinking about yet.
Mm-hmm. Right. The parts that they showed on there, like this Natowski incident, that was true. I spoke to George Natowski. I researched that. That's a documented case that just got buried and stuck in the back, as did the Bashful Billy case, which you well know that. And that Hunter incident that happened in Frametown, that was true. Alfred and I were on site location there. But the way it was just put together, I went to film school, and I was trained by a top Hollywood camera operator who is in California now. So I know the way that everything works and editing works, and it was just disappointing the way it was cut together. I was floored when I saw what happened. But as far as what was reenacted, that was true. The Natowski incident, the Hunter incident, the beings were not shown in the Hunter incident, nor were during the incident with Mrs. May and the kids. During that reenactment, you never saw what the quote-unquote Flatwoods Monster, we're going to call it that. It was actually a mechanical device nearly 12 feet tall. Mm-hmm. That was never shown. And when they did it at first, I thought it was just maybe a shot and hype, and when we came back after commercial, they were going to show it. But that was never none of my paintings. You've seen my paintings on flatwoodsmonsters.com. They've been out for years. I worked with Kathleen May, and I worked with Freddie May, and that's where the basis of my illustrations came from. I also talked to Ronnie Shaver and Eddie May, but the people that I worked mainly with were Freddie and his mom, Kathleen. Kathleen saw the Flatwoods Monster from approximately 12 feet away.
Wow.
She saw the thing up close. It almost came right down on top of her. Freddie May was back about 30 feet away. He had come up to the gate along the path. So what was great from my illustrative point of view, being an artist, is I got the point of view that Freddie saw this thing unfold right in front of him. Kathleen May was involved in it. So we have, two first-person accounts. One saw the whole thing. The other one was actually standing in the middle of it. Kathleen May is the one who was standing in the middle of it. So that's what I based all my illustrations. And what I did, Nick, is I worked with them for years. This isn't, and I say this a million times, I'll probably say it a million more times. This was not one or two interviews. This was years of interviews, because as I found out more information throughout my research, and I uncovered the Blue Book documents, newspaper articles, talked with other witnesses, I would go back and I would talk to the Mays again. And it was basically trying to piece this whole thing together and putting a timeline together of what happened on September 12th. And as you could see on my flatwoodsmonster.com website, I have the master maps that I used to put this whole timeline of events together, which turned out to be 21 hours of sustained UFO sightings.
And I think that's I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that was the part that irritated me the most was, you have this map, and, I've been looking at it, because I've always wanted to, and you've got a really good picture of it up now, where I can look through and go in kind of into detail and see all these different areas. They didn't mention this map or they didn't mention, it was like it was an isolated incident instead of being, and I think, Alfred, you mentioned this in your article, it's the tail end of one of the largest UFO flaps in the history of the United States. So instead of...
Not even mentioned.
And it's just like, oh, well, this, and it almost, to me, irritated me to a point where it was like, it's sort of like they were trying to get, they had the story, the editor knew the story going into that he wanted to tell, and he told that story instead of the story that was, instead of telling the truth, he told this story, and it kind of was more or less a, well, they're a backwoods of West Virginia, and and when we'll be taking a break soon, and we'll maybe hit that part where we talk about what they concluded at the end of it, and we'll get to that in a little bit, and it was just ridiculous, though. I mean, did they? You
notice they never showed the monster, right?
Yeah,
they never showed the monster. Now, what was up with that? The stories about the Flatwoods Monster, they never show the monster. They showed an alligator in a hover-round.
And as far as the map is concerned, Nick,
Alfred
and I actually set that up for the production crew.
So you set the whole map up for
Alfred and I had it set up on the wall. Actually, the photographs that are up on my website right now were taken during that shoot. Alfred and I hung everything up on the wall while the team was getting their cameras and tripods set up and came over, and he adjusted the lights. I called Al Lehmberg over. I says, Al, do me a favor. While this map is up on the wall, could you take the pictures? And Alfred actually took those pictures that are on my website.
Very good job, Alfred.
So when we got done with that, the cameraman walked over to me and he says, Frank, what do you want me to shoot? And I said, zoom in over here off the East Coast, come in over Washington, continue to pan left as you get in towards Flatwood, zoom in on the stars in there. And how long did we do that for, Al? 15, 20 minutes of just nothing but map shots.
Right.
And they never used them.
And there was no mention of that whatsoever.
I mean, so they had all... Why? Did they give you a reason?
No, I haven't talked to anybody. Nobody has.
Like I get that, you got 60 hours of footage, 60 plus hours, an
Yeah.
hour-long program. A lot's gonna get edited out, but you'd think that they would put the map of what happened and
Yeah,
show the monster.
You'd like to think they kept some wheat, right?
Well, and the thing is to past that, it's like 40. Okay, you've got commercials and everything. I think it's 45 minutes worth of show.
47.
47. Then you have the diversion to the Star Child, which, I mean, nothing against this, that skull. I mean, that's a very interesting story. It has nothing to do with the lizard man, or whatever they want to call it,
or what happened.
It just has nothing. It's like, oh, meanwhile, here's this skull that was found 700-800 miles away.
Meanwhile, at Nick's house.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, and I'm sitting there like, okay, well, how are they going to tie this in? And I'm like, well, they didn't. So,
Oh.
At about that point, I was in like a fit of the deepest despair.
They showed the what the skull looked like with skin on it. That was the only monster that was showing the entire thing, and it looked human.
Well, you're forgetting the alligator in the hub around.
Oh yeah, the alligator. I'm sorry.
But like I was just started to say a minute ago, guys, is we have illustrations and drawings, first-hand drawings. I have the 1996 drawing when I was working with Freddie May, and the pencil drawing. We have all there's 5 known eyewitness drawings from the kids.
Yeah.
They had all of that. They had my illustrations. The Flatwoods Monster wasn't even shown. They kept referring back to that same photograph of Mrs. May with Gene Lemon holding up that incorrect drawing, and that's what was constantly referenced. So what we have here is something that was no better than what was shown in 1952.
Yeah,
and I know
how
aggravated the May family was during that time, and I thought this show would have maybe given a little bit of effort than the original show, but it seems it wasn't.
Hold on to that thought. We'll continue. We got a break for CNN News. Our guests tonight are Mr. Frank Feschino Jr. and Alfred Lehmberg. We're talking about the Flatwoods Monster and its recent episode on Monster Quest. You're listening to the Sketties on Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. We'll be right after some CNN.
Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. I'm Jordan Klein. He's Nick Queen. She is the lovely Lola Miller. It is 7:07 p.m., cold and dreary and wet outside.
Yes.
Give us a call, 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, call toll-free, 1-866-514-1600. Our guests tonight, Mr. Frank Feschino and Mr. Alfred Lehmberg. We're talking about the Flatwoods Monster and how it was, I'm gonna use Alfred's term, sandbagged by Monster Quest. You guys still with us?
We're here. We're ready to go.
I'd be here part 2.
There we go. All right, now tell us what really happened then. Let's go for the real story of Flatwoods Monster. I know it's too big of a story just to cover in this last hour, but since it got so butchered on TV, tell us what was meant to be done. What was meant to be said.
Kind of a recap of the story. It was on September 12th, 1952, towards the end of the summer, and what we basically have here, to sum this up real quick, 1952 had a record year for UFO reports that were sent to Project Blue Book. They were in charge with investigating and the evaluation of UFO reports. And there was 1,501 reports sent to Blue Book at ATIC. 303 were unknowns. Mm-hmm. In September alone, there was 124 reports. And this Flatwoods incident was basically looked at and investigated in the earlier years, 52, 53, 54, and everybody gave the story up. Nobody really looked outside of Flatwoods. Flatwoods was basically the end of the story. What I started doing was researching and going in an omnidirection. What was going on north, south, east, and west of Flatwoods around the United States? And if you look on my master map, you will basically see the flight paths that I was able to figure out with some of the people I worked with. There were several damaged UFOs that had come over the United States, and the hub where all the activity was going on was in Flatwoods. It was not an isolated event. That's what I was able to discover, and I used Blue Book documents. I saw witnesses, found newspaper articles from all over the United States, and that's when I started piecing this whole thing together, and I found out about the incident in Wheeling there, the Snitowski incident, the Flatwoods Monster. So there was a lot of things going on within this 24-hour period.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key point right there. Is you look at that map and you think, oh, well, that's easily the last 10 years worth of UFO activity in that area. No, that was less than 1 day's worth of activity.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you have the flight paths track. I mean, you have it completely where they went, how they got there, what direction they took, you know.
And the strongest part of my evidence came right out of the Blue Book documents, Nick. That's what the mind-blowing part of this is. You know, I didn't just pull this out of my ear. This is documented in Project Blue Book. It's nearly 180 pages. And the documents were hard to read. It's not like I just sat down and just, whipped through these things in a couple days. This took several years to put together. And I had to enlarge up with computers and digitize these images because most of the copies were not legible. They were hard to read, and I was blowing up some of these documents, 10, 20 times the actual size, and retracing and documenting the text and the eyewitness testimony within there. So I was, so this wasn't an easy task. This is why nobody ever figured out what was going on, because they just looked at the documents and just, it took too many years to put into this thing. That's what I was able to do.
And all of those UFOs that you're seeing there, you have to remember too that the United States military had standing orders to shoot them down.
Yeah, that's what I think is like the most impressive, is that it's not even covered up to the aspect that no, there was nothing there, where the government was like, listen, something's out there flying around, shoot them down. It's.
Well, now I got a question for you. I'm looking at the map now. Now somebody that's looking at it, some of the stuff you can figure out. Now the yellow stars are where things were reported to be sighted, correct?
Right.
Now what the blue stars are?
There's a key over on the side.
Okay,
the key shows the Air Force bases.
Yeah, top picture all the way over on the right.
Right, and then there's stars that represent landings.
I think let me see here. Okay, wait, I got two pictures up here. So
okay.
Okay. All right. So the red indicates landings, or the blue. I'm sorry.
The key. Look over on the key over on the side.
Okay,
there's a key there that explains all of them.
Okay. Let me see here. I'll find it. But now I did notice one thing. My next question was, it looks like I've always talked to you about the three that were coming across. There was one going towards Wrights-Patterson.
Right.
One was heading towards
Oak Ridge National Laboratory,
and the last one was Buzz the Washington. There's one that comes. You've got the Baltimore, Washington area, and there's the one that goes to Flatwood. There's another one here that kind of veered off a little bit to the south, and it was reported. It says here, Cigar UFO, Georgetown to west to Virginia. What exactly was that path?
Okay, what actually happened, and I'll try to put this into layman's terms
sure.
as easy as I could. When that Flatwoods, I'm going to refer to this as the Flatwoods Monster Craft or UFO because that's what it was. That flew over Washington on a western trajectory. It flew, and if you follow the flight path, it flew over Virginia, and it was sighted by an airplane pilot, private airplane pilot. And this thing was seen all flying western direction towards West Virginia. When it hit West Virginia, it turned south. It made a 45-degree angle turn, followed the main road, cut through Braxton County, and that's when it landed in Flatwoods. Now, when this UFO was seen over Washington, it was seen by hundreds of people. When I first started reviewing the Project Blue Book documents, there were several descriptions of these, of what was said to have been one fireball meteor, and that's what Blue Book deemed the answer to this whole thing of what was going on. It was a fireball meteor, typical fireball meteor, seen for 5 to 6 seconds flying over Washington. Well, when I started going through all the eyewitness testimony, they were tentative observers' reports, and what would actually happen is if you saw a UFO, you would contact the Air Force, and they would send you this questionnaire. You would fill it out, and you would send it back to them. That's what was in Project Blue Book. Then there was actually transcriptions of the local radio reports that were broadcast that night. And what I did it took me about 10 years of putting all of this data together. I was able to figure out what actually happened is when the Flatwoods craft was flying at some point over Washington treetop level. Okay, not a meteor. There was no sonic boom noted anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, what actually happened is when this thing flew over Washington, several other UFOs dropped down out of the sky and formed a blockade perimeter around it and followed it west. There were sightings over D.C., Virginia, and Maryland within a 10-minute segment. Basically, he was like the runner, and he had his blockers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way to explain it, because there is sightings from 8 o'clock to 8:10 that took place over, like I just said, over D.C., Virginia, and Maryland, and all the descriptions of these UFOs are all different. And just because there was, let's say, like hundreds of sightings doesn't mean there was hundreds of UFOs. What I did is I had to figure out the shape, the size, the colors, the flight paths, which way these things were flying, what part of the states they were in. So I was able to differentiate that there was actually 12 of them that flew over that area.
Wow.
And they actually moved west. Okay? And this is on the master map. The master map isn't the only map that I use, and I told this to Alfred Lehmberg and Stan Friedman before. I have several other maps of regional areas. That is kind of an overview of what happened. But after these UFOs followed the Flatwoods craft west, they ascended into the sky. And when they ascended, do you know where they reappeared and dropped back to? In your guys' area in Wheeling. They descended through the Ohio, Pennsylvania, and northern West Virginia Panhandle area in Wheeling.
And we told you before, or last time we were on, Nick and I went to the library to check out some of the old newspaper articles, and sure enough, they have flying saucer lands in Oglebay Park. And
Ding.
Yeah, so, what they did is this was a damaged craft. We had another damaged craft that flew over Baltimore, and if you look at the map, you see it heads right up towards Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. It turned again, and it headed in the opposite direction towards the Panhandle. And I think you guys read the articles or read pieces in the book. There was actually three reports by commercial airline pilots citing this UFO. This particular one nearly hit the wing of aircraft loaded with passengers. So this is documented throughout the West Virginia and Ohio and Pennsylvania newspapers. So when these UFOs departed the area, they ascended, they dropped back down, and if you look at that master map, you're going to see sightings throughout the northern Panhandle area, and to the east and to the west of Ohio. Do you see that mess up there?
Yeah, I see
All of
that.
those are documented sightings, and these things were dropping down out of the sky.
And that's something I was going to say. You have meteor showers put on here
Right.
in several areas. That's in this little concentrated area up here. Now, the one thing, if people that, you hear about a meteor shower, it's like, oh, there's going to be a meteor shower and it's going to be seen, all around the world, really, depending on where it's going to happen. It's never really concentrated in one little area, it's
Exactly.
so, and it's kind of expected. It's got a little, it doesn't hold water to say, oh, it was a meteor shower. There was
Right. That's how a lot of these were reported. Fireball shower, city area.
And it flew across the river and it went back
Right.
up. Yeah.
Well, you know the reason that they dropped and descended back into your area, don't you?
Why?
Bashful Billy. That's where that other alien was down.
So they're looking to try to rescue.
There's where their second was, and then when you come back to Flatwoods later on that night, there was actually and Alfred I sent him an email today that shows there was a rescue mission in the Flatwoods area, and it all circled over that one little hilltop on the Bailey Fisher farm where Alfred and I were when we did part of our shoot. So you have these same UFOs are seen all over the United States, and that one where your original question was before I went on my spiel about that cigar-shaped object, I tracked that from the Washington area going all the way in to West Virginia. Then it was seen up in northern West Virginia again.
Well, it looks like it swerved down. Some people that can't see the map, looks like it comes and swerves down a little bit into Virginia, then it shoots back up towards the Flatwoods area.
Right.
And there was a lot of activity, which is my next question. You have these are all going from east to west, the three we're talking about.
Right.
The three. There's a lot of activity, it looks like, from Flatwoods back and forth, going north to south, south to north. And if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, those sightings all occurred over North Carolina, and they went northwest into Flatwood. So you see everything, and there was a damaged object that came from that direction up. There was actually 5 of them. That information was in Blue Book. And once again, you have to decipher and where these objects were seen, and the government was stating that all of these sightings were attributed to what was called the 12 September Washington area meteor. But when you break it down, these sightings actually took place over 102 locations over 21 hours. Not one fireball meteor seen for 5 to 6 seconds flying over Washington.
And I think it's Alfred. One of your websites is Paratopiary, right?
Paratopiary.
Okay, good. I got it right. Now that's
and actually that's more Frank's website than mine. That's
okay.
Just current information stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw your name on there a couple places, but it focuses on Flatwood Monster, correct?
Well, it's a paratopiary because there's a whole bunch of different plants and bushes that Frank's associated with. You look down there towards the bottom, and he's with the Tuskegee Airmen. He's with Zozo, the Suzo. How's that pronounced, Frank?
Yeah,
Zozo, the
rock and roll band.
premier Led Zeppelin cover band.
I was gonna say I see that here. Now, are you? Wait a second. Before we got to stop right here. Are you with the band?
No, I know the guys. I'm
okay.
That's a shame.
For a second, I was going to say, you never told me. No, but all right. Yeah, I see your picture. But anyways, I saw here that you mentioned on the September 12th, there were also sightings in California and Illinois, not to mention Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, Washington D.C., and West Virginia, which is a isolated incident in Flatwoods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the record, Project Blue Book did not list Delaware, Ohio, or Tennessee sightings, which were vital. There's no listing of that.
That's mostly
Why not?
Probably because nobody reported them, right?
Nobody reported them, and there are also some documents that are missing from the Blue Book September 12th files.
Oh.
Yeah, they were just
misfiled.
They just lost them. That's all.
Yeah.
But how I was able to track these guys, or when you start reading some of these newswire services, they would say there were also sightings in Tennessee. Some of the Washington or Ohio or West Virginia news stories would be talking about them. So I'm like, okay, where's the areas? Then I would contact the libraries in those areas and ask for anything unusual, paranormal activity, stuff flying around in the sky. And the librarians would look all this stuff up on microfilm and they would send it to me. And this is how I did a lot of my research. In West Virginia, I did all my own research. I went on location and went to all the libraries myself. But some of the other places, I could have spent a lifetime if I had to drive to every library within those 9 East Coast states. But that's how I pinned it together. And between all the librarians around the United States that helped me, the Blue Book documents, newspaper, there was even some magazine articles that referenced stuff. I have a massive collection of UFO books and magazines and data, and this is just compiling all this stuff together and then extracting the information out, pinpointing them on several different maps, and then I condensed it and I put it on that master map. Stanton Friedman was a very big help. He actually got his hands on some articles from a private library, and he sent those to me. So what it is you have a map that looks like it was shot with a shotgun. And then it's piecing together. And because the majority of these sightings all gave times, when it was seen over here at this time, then a minute later it was seen here, and you start connecting the dots. So that's why it took so many years to put together.
So you've been working on this, what, 20
close to 20
years?
Now. Yeah. Close to 20 years. And when I'm on book tours, and even when I was up in West Virginia with Alfred and Stanton, there were people that came forward and told us there were some more sightings. And people sat down and talked to me. And so the sightings are going to continue. The maps, the plots of the maps are going to get bigger as we go on, because more people are calling us and contacting us all the time.
Now, is this 1952? I mean, was a huge year for UFO sightings. Yeah. Is this the only area that in this I don't want to say small area, but relatively small? Is there any other area in the United States other than California and Illinois, which I just mentioned earlier, where there was huge sightings like this?
Not of this magnitude.
Not of this magnitude.
But back in the early days, there was a lot of Air Force bases that were reconnoitered, and as well as atomic weapons installations. It's key strategic places, a lot of military installations and top secret places these UFOs were over the years.
I mean, it's interesting to see all the different Air Force bases that are listed here, with the blue stars, and
right.
You can kind of see where this craft, buzzed a lot of them, so it's.
Then you see where the Flatwoods craft landed. It landed in the heart of West Virginia, because there's no nearby Air Force bases there.
Yeah.
And if you're going to touch down with a damaged craft, and the other damaged craft came from the south over North Carolina. When I was putting together the flight paths, I actually got an email from a man who lived in West Virginia, and he saw 3 of those UFOs that were flying in formation from North Carolina. Do you see where they're coming in from, Nick? You see them down south, and then they're flying northwest.
I see that there. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually was a kid, and he saw those 3 of them flying in formation towards Flatwoods. Oh. And he got hold of me, and to make a long story short, he actually had retired and moved to Orlando, and he lived an hour away from me, and I went down and met him.
Now, I got a question here. There's this red outline in the southern part around Oak Ridge. What exactly is that? Is that a...
That's the no-fly zone.
No-fly zone. Okay, I thought
right.
It was.
That's where you're not supposed to go through, and there's 3 Air Force bases if you zoom in on there, and they form a triangulation. And anything that penetrates that no-fly zone is supposed to be intercepted.
Okay.
And there were no UFOs intercepted. That thing repeatedly landed in that area.
And that blue circle that highlights where the it looks like it turned around. What exactly is that indicating?
It actually landed and then turned back and redirected.
Okay.
And the way I figured, now if you look up and you see the number 2 object that flew up towards Wright-Patterson, Okay, see that one, Nick? See how it redirected and went back in your direction?
Yeah.
Okay, that went in one direction. See the one down to the south that redirected and went the other way?
Uh-huh.
I had figured out with my team of guys that I worked with is when the Flatwoods craft came over Washington and flew through the restricted zone and was not intercepted by fighters. When it passed over safely, that's when the other two turned away. So what they were actually doing, if you continue those lines, see they were heading directly towards them, they were threatening maneuvers. Continue those flight path trajectories and keep going. They would have went dead right into them.
Wow.
So when that Flatwoods craft came over Washington, the other two that were going towards Oak Ridge and Wright Pat turned away when it flew safely through. So they were putting the heat on. That's definitely a threatening maneuver. Anybody who knows military history or has a military background of warfare, look at that map. That map has raised the eyebrows of a lot of military people that have looked at it.
And which is the sad part about this entire, I guess, incident, with the show, is that that's the point of all of this. I mean, in the end, it's not about necessarily, the monster and all this. It's the point of, if you're correct and there's these UFOs that were buzzing, Washington D.C., which is the political, a nuclear power plant, and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That was a story that needed to go out.
And the map is right there. It speaks for itself.
It doesn't take a genius. I mean, I'm not I'm sitting here looking at it. I'm not the smartest person with maps. I mean, but I mean, look back at it and it's like, oh, well, that looks like that looks like exactly what we're talking about. I mean,
threatening maneuver.
There's no other way to look at it. Yeah.
Right. So you have the first one went towards Oak Ridge. The second one went up towards Wright-Patterson and Dayton. And then you had the third one came straight down the middle over Washington. And you see where all the flight paths intersect when you go back east off the coast of the United States through the no-fly zone. Al, you want to give a quick rundown on that and the ADIZ, the Atlantic?
Oh, yeah, it's the real quick and dirty story is that there's a line that shall not be crossed, or you get the universe launched on you in extreme prejudice.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Alfred. Yeah, that's the area where if you fly through there, you have to identify yourself and your aircraft, or you will be launched on.
Now that's exactly what happened, I'm guessing.
There's the no-fly zone,
yeah.
the air defense identification zone, and where those intersect is approximately 90 miles off the coast.
Now, do you think, because we talked about how Bashful Billy was an injured, one of the injured crafts, had crashed, do you think that was from entering that no-fly zone? They got shot and they just zipped over here and went down, or? Yeah,
well, look at where they intersect right off the coast. All three of them intersected that line right in the ADIZ. Remember I said earlier, I worked in reverse. I went from Flatwoods and figured out it was from Washington. Then I tied everything else out. And the people that I worked with actually says, well, let's keep drawing these lines back. We know where they went when they went in west. Let's put them all back and see where they intersect. And they all intersected off the coast, right in the no-fly zone. And what we have is, you go back a few weeks, about a month and a half, there was an international news service, Wire, excuse me, and the Seattle Post-Intelligencer was one of the few papers that carried it. And the headline, Air Force orders jet pilots to shoot down flying saucers if they refuse to land. The jet pilots are and have been under orders to investigate unidentified objects and to shoot them down if they can't talk them down. Then the article goes on to say, and I quote, in Air Force parlance, this means that if a flying saucer refuses to land, jet pilots are authorized to shoot them to Earth if they can get close enough to do so.
And isn't it true that all flying saucers have refused to land?
Whatever did end well for them.
As far as we know. We're going to take another break, guys. If you want to hang on just for a couple minutes. It's probably going to be a quick break. You are listening to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. If you got a question for one of our guests, the number's 304-214-1600, toll free 1-866-514-1600. We'll be right back.
And now back to Whispers, brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours.
Here we come from the inside. Turns out you're impressionable and blind out.
Welcome back to Whispers Radio, everybody. I want it, or 1600.
You want
AM,
a what?
AM 1600.
Yeah.
You want to finish that thought?
No, I don't. The music tonight is The Sketties. Check them out. MySpace or Facebook / The Sketties. That's SKETTIES. Go check them out. They're neat. They're fun.
Yep.
They're from Lancaster, PA. I'm Jordan Klein. He's Nick Queen. She is the lovely Lola Miller. Call in for our guest 1-800. What is wrong with me?
1-866.
Let's go back to break and see if we can
514-1600, or if you're local, 304-214-1600.
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
Yeah.
Because she can talk straight.
You're one heck of a lady.
Yeah, I know.
Our guests tonight, Mr. Frank Feschino Jr. and Alfred Lehmberg. We're talking about the Flatwoods Monster. You guys hanging still with us?
We're still here.
I be here, part 3.
All right. Now, I'm sorry to interrupt. Well, I was going to say, when we've got not much time left, I wanted to make sure we get all of the stuff out of the way. That way, anybody that's listening can know exactly, myth versus reality here. What are some of the things that you would point out, looking at the, show, what people saw, and taking away from it to actually what really happened? What are the main points?
One of the main parts that was not clear, which I had described, and Alfred could vouch for this, is the distinct similarity between what was seen in Frametown the following night and the Flatwoods Monster seen the night before.
Uh-huh.
The Flatwoods Monster was not seen in the reenactment. You could see it on my website. And my conclusion is when this thing flew and left the Bailey Fisher farm after it was sighted by Mrs. May and all the boys, I actually pinpointed this craft flying through Braxton County, and approximately 17 miles away it landed. All of this is documented. And what we have the following night is the same description of this craft, except the waist down, what George Natowski and his wife had actually seen and encountered, which you see in the reenactment, was the Flatwoods craft, lower portion, the upper portion of the suit was gone.
Yeah.
Not a crocodile.
And we Nick and I came to this conclusion, I guess, when we were looking at the Oglebay crash, the picture, the artist's rendition of Bashful Billy. If you take that picture and kind of use that as a mockery of what your picture of the half suit looks like, I mean, because the mockery picture kind of looks like a dragon with like one of the barrel suspenders, like the old cartoons.
Looks like a hobo
He's
dragon.
smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
But if you look at that and you analyze that, guys,
Yeah, it looks like,
it's
the
actually
barrel.
a dragon. It's a reptile.
Yeah.
That I don't think they just pulled that out of thin air. So I think there may have been a little bit more to believe in than what the public was led to believe is a joke up in that Bashful Billy case. You actually have a reptile dragon-looking thing with a tail.
Yeah, and it's just like, with your picture of the half suit, that barrel that that it's wearing, it's not, with the suspenders. I mean, they're making a joke about it,
Right.
but it's like somebody took what the guy saw and was like, all right, we need to, make this some kind of funny, mock this a little bit so people don't go crazy. And
kind of like the way they did with Mrs. May's picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at one of the key things in Mrs. May's the description to them that it was about the thing we all know about the skirt was actually pipes. It wasn't pleats. But if you look at that original drawing very close, the illustrator has a drop cast shadow underneath, which indicates it was hovering. Nobody over the years can figure out why is a monster wearing a dress hovering with arms and claws and a hood on its head. It was actually hovering, which was represented properly with that shadow underneath, because it was part of a propulsion system, and that was the gas that was emitted from the pipes, not the pleats, that went through the area, and that was the sulfur smell that made them all sick. In the Snatowski incident the following night, Snatowski actually thought there was a sulfur plant nearby that was on fire because the smell was so overwhelming. He said sulfur and ether. I spoke to George Snatowski. I have the original magazine article, and Jacques Vallée actually wrote about this in his book Passport to Magonia. So there is reference to this thing. It was just not as well known in Braxton County. The story did not hit the public until 1955. George Snatowski didn't talk about it. And Paul Lieb, who actually was a flying saucer researcher, and he went to Flatwoods. As far as I know, he may have been the first one into that area besides Barker, who was there about a week later, Gray Barker, and Ivan T. Sanderson. And Paul Lieb is the one that actually interviewed George Snatowski. And portions of that interview are in my book, Shoot Them Down. And that's the same chapter where I talk about the Bashful Billy. So we got a lot of stuff that was going on that night that I pulled together.
And there had to have been something up there because there were 180 soldiers and one lieutenant colonel looking for something.
Right. Colonel Levitt was told to go into the Flatwoods area where the craft touched down, and he was there with about 60 troops. There was 180. There was actually two crash sites. One was Sugar Creek down along the river, and the other one was in Flatwoods. Levitt was called by the Air Force. He got a call from Washington in his home in Braxton County. He pulled together 180 troops. They went to one crash site. Levitt set up there. He broke away with 60 troops, and they went to Flatwoods, and they came into the back part of the farm is to not disturb the locals. They didn't go by Mrs. May's house and everybody who was involved in it. They came in on a covert mission.
And that's a lot of troops. You know,
it's a battalion. It's a battalion of troops.
Yeah, 60
and
troops.
You don't deploy a battalion of National Guard for a barn owl. I'm sorry.
It was 1952. What else did they have to be worried about? I'm sorry. That was...
Yeah, cut his mic off.
Well, I'm being honest here. I mean, it's you don't, during the Cold War, you're not going to send, troops there for no reason. I mean, yeah. So I mean, it leaves a lot of questions. Now, I do want to mention the fact that it kind of ended the show on this kind of note of, well, I think they were almost saying, well, there's gases leaking out of the ground that they were hallucinating. I think that was almost a conclusion that they, the editor, came up with. I mean, is that? I mean, I'm being? I don't think I'm being facetious there. I mean, I think that's. You feel that's what they came up with?
Well, that's kind of what Joe Nichols came up with,
Yeah.
And in the final analysis, the geologist that went up there to look at that area said that there's no strata of coal, vein or otherwise, that would make that kind of thing likely in the first place, and in the second place, it never happened before, and it hasn't happened since.
And what was described in the Flatwoods case was actually a sulfur burning smell.
Yeah.
That's what Freddie May and Kathleen described it as.
I don't think I remember them saying that on the show as much. Like, they didn't exactly say, well, this is different than this. You know what I'm saying? They kind of just said, well,
There was a rolling gas that was being emitted by
Yeah.
this machine called the Monster, and it was billowing out. And another part that was neglected was when Mrs. May, they showed the shot of the actress, and she's hit with the oil in the front of her
Yeah.
on her apron. Okay, that was not brought up because the reason there was oil because this thing was some type of a machine. That's what explains it. And it wasn't attacking them. It was just a propulsion system. It was exhaust. And this thing made no threatening maneuver against them, nor in the George Snatowski interview did he say this thing threatened them. It made no threatening maneuver towards them. It came up to the car, but it didn't harm them. It actually circled the car, then went back up front, looked in, and touched it, and then it left. And when it proceeded back into the woods, what actually happened is the UFO that Snatowski and his wife saw at the beginning when their car stalled, it was a purplish UFO that was flashing and glowing out in the woods. Mrs. May talked about the same thing in her interview to me back in the 1991. And Mrs. May didn't know about what was going on at that point with George Snatowski. Most of Braxton County was unaware of what had happened. This article came out in 1955, July. So it's basically piecing all of this stuff together. And when George Snatowski actually went through Frametown, when this thing happened on the following day, the West Virginia newspapers and the newswire services, it had not hit about the Flatwoods Monster yet. Wasn't in the press. That didn't appear until Sunday. So when Snatowski went through there, unless he had stopped in Flatwoods and found out what was going on that night, he was just a passerby, and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the Charleston Gazette started running the first articles on Sunday, and then it went public throughout the newswire services Monday. And when you actually look at the article that was printed and the Charleston Gazette on Monday, it was September 15th, there's a quote where they actually give the correct depiction of the monster, and they say, and here's a quote, it looked like a mechanical man. It sported a black spade-like hull which extended over its head.
Wow.
You know, so the key words here, guys, are it looked like a mechanical man, was 10 feet tall, 4 foot wide, and had
way
a
back in the beginning.
blood red face. The blood red face wasn't an actual face. It was actually an inner helmet because Freddie May and his mom told me they were portholes. They were not eyes. And when they saw this thing, Mrs. May said it lit up. It's a famous quote. It lit up like a Christmas tree from the inside. What it was in some type of an interior light system that projected. It wasn't shooting death beam, Buck Rogers monster eyeball beams out. It was actually light that was forced out.
Wow.
Now, I got one question last. We're running out of time, but have you spoke to Freddie May since the show aired?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'd be interested to know what his opinion of it was. See what he thinks and what people, of Flatwood think. I'll have to get in touch with you about that.
Have you talked to anybody that was also on the show with you other than Alfred?
Yeah, what does Stan Friedman think?
The last I talked to Stan, he hadn't seen the show yet.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't talked to him recently. He's been traveling, and where his area is in Canada, it wasn't broadcast.
Oh, okay.
So he was waiting for a tape to come into him. So I haven't talked to him recently.
Well, I'll have to get in touch with him too.
But there's one thing, and Alfred, you wrote about this in the article about how Stanton was referenced at the opening of the show.
Oh, yeah. Stanton Friedman is famous for, because, Stanton Friedman, you want to call him Dr. Friedman,
Yeah.
And he's famous for going, no free degrees, no free degrees. I'm not a doctor. I have a Master of Science from wherever it was from, a university in New York. But he's famous for refusing to be a doctor. And what do they call him? Doctor.
Dr. Free. Oh, jeez. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
It got really quiet. We thought you got zapped there.
Yeah.
I was just done.
Yeah, when I first saw that, and Alfred said, "Well, did you tell Stanton yet?" I kind of jokingly says, "No, I'll leave that up to you. You can still stand that part."
I'm not telling him.
He'll probably just see it and turn it off.
So, Dr. Friedman.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
boy.
a way to get off on the wrong foot with Stanton Friedman, is to call him Dr. Friedman.
We'll take that into.
Yeah, we'll write that one down.
Right.
Yeah, piled higher and deeper, he calls it, I think. Yeah.
I'll write that in the notes for Nick, just so the next time we have Stan on, he goes, so Dr. Freeman, I'll script it out. It'll be nice.
That'll be your last show.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I want to thank you very much for
Okay.
coming on and clearing stuff up, and that way, not telling people to discredit, the show, but there's real stories, and then there's the stories that get edited down to entertain. And
It's called Hollywood, people.
This story is good enough and more interesting unedited, if that's fair.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
the implications are more. They should be put out there. It wasn't.
Hey, the book's usually better than the movie, right?
There we go.
There we
Yeah,
go.
go buy the book. Shoot 'em down. Flying Saucer Air Wars of 1952. And has the other one out yet?
No, we're working
Okay,
on that.
Okay.
We'll have to bring you back when it comes out.
We
Okay.
do have that, Frank. We have that on our website. People can just go and click on it and buy it from the site right there.
Yep.
Whispersradio.com. Go there.
And if you want to look at the map and a lot of other details on what's currently going on, you can go to flatwoodsmonster.com.
Very good.
There we
Thank
go.
you, guys.
We got that all linked up too. Thank you guys very
Thanks,
much.
Frank.
Thanks,
Alfred.
Al.
You'll be talking to us again. Have a good night, guys.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to it. Had a good time like I did last time.
All right,
See you,
great.
Alfred.
Glad to hear that.
Bye. See, I like it. I think it's a really interesting story, and Monster Quest, it's a good show for what it is. My personal opinion is that they were like, oh, Flatwoods Monster, I bet that's a cryptid show. Let's get it. And they got all the evidence. They're like, okay, that's not a cryptid
wasn't.
show. We better try to edit it to make it sound like one.
Yeah,
and then
that's
the
what it
Star
is.
Child thing, going into it, because I've been talking to Frank for months about, I knew it was coming up, and he was excited, and then this is the first time I talked to him since it aired, and he wasn't sounding excited anymore.
Yeah, when I talked to him earlier today, he's like, if you don't know what's going on, this is what's going on, and I'm not happy.
And I was like,
That's too bad. But you're right. Hollywood is Hollywood,
It's
and they're
Hollywood,
going to
yeah,
edit it down to make it as glamorous and title worthy as they possibly
Mhm.
can, disregarding any of the truth. I mean, it's Hollywood. The
As-
truth comes way, way, way second or third.
I know
Yeah.
one of my favorite examples of a book I've been trying to get him on the show, and every time I try to get him, he's always busy. But John Ronson, he wrote a book called Them, and it's this where he goes out and he's a English journalist. He just had a movie made from one of his books, which was The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Oh, I still want to see that.
Well,
It's out on DVD
And it's very
now.
different from the book, and the book's very interesting. And I've heard that the movie's kind of
Well, yeah,
different. I mean, of course, it's going to be different.
it's George Clooney.
Yeah. Well, they had this this book called Them's about he's trying to find out who they are. They everybody says, well, they control the world, they do this. Well, who are they? And everybody has this idea of who they are.
Mhm.
So he goes, and of course he's Jewish, and the first person he goes and talks to is this Muslim extremist, and they have this idea of who they are. And then he talks to the KKK, he goes after the Bilderbergs. He ends up with Alex Jones over in the Bohemian Grove. Excellent book. I mean, I'll recommend it to anybody to go read it. Excellent, especially if you love conspiracy theories. Well, they go and they take the movie, or they go to buy the movie rights, and they change the character from him, this journalist, it could be a true story, and they change it to a woman. And they're like, well, why are
And
they
who-
going to change it to a woman?
Who would believe that a woman would do
Well, I'm
such
just-
a thing?
But
Yeah,
it's not the
I
story,
know.
but it's like,
That's what happens when you
Yeah.
sell your rights. You know.
Yeah.
well, that's what
F.
we talked
Paul
to
Wilson
F. Paul
said
Wilson.
that exact same thing. And if you demand too many conditions in that
Mhm.
sale, you're not going to sell the book.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, and it's sad when it happens, especially when you're trying to do a truthful. I mean, Monster Quest touts itself as let's examine it truthfully,
Yeah.
and and I think they missed the boat on this one, and
Yeah. Well, we are done, gentlemen.
Next week we will be at the Market House Grill. Come out and see us. It'll be fun times.
what are you laughing about?
Oh, I just have a tickle in my soul.
But yeah, we'd just come out. Well, we'll be there. You want to meet us? Throw stuff at us. Throw stuff at Jordan.
Nobody took me up on the paint my face green thing.
I know.
And I'm so happy.
And I was expecting it to happen.
Well, I figured it was going to be
I'm
non-removable paint.
Okay, so who's next week?
Well, right now I'm still working on waiting for phone calls.
So it's a surprise, everybody.
It is a surprise.
Tune in for a surprise.
Bum, 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 bum.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
Enjoy it.
Until next week, we love you. Don't be afraid. Only believe.